the order. Please ID. Everybody, please join us in pledging allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You guys, did they get copies of this when they came in? Okay. There's a copy of our public participation policy. And just so everybody knows, this was actually voted on and put into effect back a year ago, July 15, 2021. So I'm going to read it for everybody. Meetings of the Pickens County Board of Election Registration are held to conduct the affairs and business of the Office of Elections and Registration. These meetings are public as provided by the Georgia Open Meetings Act, Section 50-14-1B1 and 50-14-1C. While the Act does not make a provision for public participation during a meeting, Pickens County citizens will be invited to address the board at all regular meetings at the time shown on the agenda and in accordance with the rules established by the board. The rules are: citizens will be given 5 minutes to make their comments. Citizens may submit additional concerns in writing to the members of the board. Citizens may only speak once per stated meeting. Public participation will not exceed a total of 30 minutes. The board will not permit anyone to become personally abusive of individual board members, board employees, or any other audience member. The board will not respond to comments or questions posed by citizens in their presentation, but will take those comments and questions under advisement. Thank you.
Approval of the minutes from the June 8th regular meeting and June 23rd special meeting.
Motion to approve the stated minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a move, duly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Old business, we have none.
You have to skip approval minutes.
Oh,
A motion to approve the agenda as stated.
yeah,
Move it. Second.
I have a motion to amend.
okay.
Minimal changes. On item 6D and 6E, I want to add the following words: to be written by legal counsel to unseal the May 24th primary ballot. I didn't feel it was clear enough.
All right, we have a motion. Second.
Second.
All right, motion duly seconded to amend the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Terry, did you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, so the amendment is to add the language to be written by council to unseal the May ballot. Is that right?
Yeah, I got it. You want to rewrote it down so there's no question. It's just adding on to what's already there.
Okay, approved. Old business?
Motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Okay. Second.
Seconded.
Any discussion? We have a motion duly seconded for the change of the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Old business, none. New business. Stacy.
New business, the first item is the City of Nelson special election. I included in your binders the special election notice. We are going to have to fill a city council seat for the City of Nelson. Miss Martha Tipton has resigned.
Speak louder.
Miss Martha Tipton from the city of Nelson has resigned, and we need to hold a special election in conjunction with the November general election to fill that seat. Phil and I have both spoke with their attorney after looking over the charter, and it does require them to hold a special election, so we just need a vote from the board to hold the special election in conjunction with the general election.
Motion that we hold the special election to fill the empty seat
Nelson.
for the city of Nelson.
Second.
We have a motion
Let me
duly,
do that.
motion duly seconded to have the special election for the city of Nelson added to our election in November, the general election. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There's none. Motion carried.
The second item on the agenda is the risk limiting audit results for the June runoff election. We did a risk limiting audit sanctioned through the Secretary of State on the Democratic ballot for the runoff election. We chose that particular race for the Secretary of State on the Democratic ballot because it was the only ballot that was in all 12 precincts. The West End Republican ballot was only in a portion of ours. So to have a more accurate total, we did one that was in all 12 precincts. Out of the results that we got back from Arlo, which is the company that did the audit results, we were off by one, and that could have been due to human error in counting. So I included a copy of the results in your binders, as well as some information from Arlo on the audit guide report that kind of explains more of what each section is and gives you a little bit more information when you're trying to read the results.
And how many ballots were actually looked at?
We looked at every Democratic ballot that was in the runoff election. I think it says on there, we went through 1,705 ballots, and we had 170 tabulated votes that we went through for the runoff election.
Ballots and 170 tabulated votes.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't see,
Go ahead and, well, tell them what it's about.
okay, this is for discussion on executive sessions and what is discussed.
Basically, the Open Meetings Act requires any time that a quorum of you get together to talk about agency business, you must do it in an open meeting. Subject to the Open Meetings Act, which means your agenda has to be published, you have to publish a notice and time for meeting. There are exceptions when you can go into a closed session where it's just you and the relevant parties to the exception. And those are described in an affidavit. The first one being that there are four that would, more than likely, only four that would apply to this board. One would be to discuss, deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, or disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation, or rating of that public officer or employee, or to interview candidates for executive positions. That would cover you when you were discussing, for example, any of your employees. Certainly the agency head would come under that. And there's some other rules that apply when you're dealing with the agency head. We can get into those details if you want to. I don't think hopefully it's not relevant tonight for Stacy's benefit. But if you were doing her review, her annual review or something like that, you could take her in executive session and go over it. If y'all were ever in a position where you were going to enter into a lease or purchase property, I'm not sure that you would have the ability to actually own the real estate. I think that would have to be through the Board of Commissioners. And it would be more along the lines of an intergovernmental agreement between your agency and the Board of Commissioners. But you would be eligible to go in, you could go into executive session to discuss some of those matters. The lease itself or the appraisal, any appraisals that you have would eventually become public record under that exception. Discuss records that are otherwise protected from disclosure on the Open Records Act. When there's no reasonable means to consider the records without closing the meeting, that's not really, when we get an open records request from a person, that's usually handled by staff. I don't know of any of a situation where we would be coming to y'all to go over it. There may very well be one, and that exception exists. Many times that's used in a county or school setting when we're talking about a courthouse security plan or something along those lines. And then meet with legal counsel pertaining to pending or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial action brought or to be brought by or against the agency or an officer or employee in which the officer or employee may be directly involved. So any threatened or pending litigation that would involve the board as a whole, or if it was against one of you individually in your official capacity, that we would go into executive session. But that is basically to preserve the attorney-client privilege between your board and your counsel. Others are permitted to be in there if they are relevant to the discussion. For example, if you had a lawsuit where your executive director was named, she could participate in those discussions as well. And those are basically the 4 exceptions that apply to y'all. I'll be more than happy to talk with any, answer any questions about it if you have any.
Question?
The other 2 things, as y'all know, because we've done this before, the board members that participate in executive session must sign an affidavit that basically says the only thing they discussed was what the exception was that you went into executive session on. You cannot take any action in executive session, with the exception of real estate. Again, I think it'd be very rare for this board to do it. And after that vote, after that closing or that lease or whatever that thing was consummated, you would have to disclose what your vote was eventually. Minutes are taken, they are kept in a separate minute book, and they're confidential. It can only be opened under a judge's order, and that for an in-camera inspection at her discretion. I believe that covers it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Phil.
Question?
No, for me.
Read it as amended. Yeah. Just say what's on there and then pick it up right there. You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. He's got some eye drops in his eyes. He can't see very well, so I'm going to read. So the amended, we are now at the area of 6D, which was the amendment to board discussion on court order to be written by legal counsel to unseal the May 24th primary ballots. And I made this motion in, so I'll start. This board took an oath to ensure elections are fair, accurate, and completed with the highest level of integrity. This board's purpose is to represent the citizens of Pickens County. Voter confidence and transparency is our highest guiding light. On June 8th, our staff regular meeting, this board was very open about willingness to look into the request to audit the May 24th primary for the Secretary of State and governor's races. We requested of the public to allow this board time to research the process and legalities to accomplish the request. The undisputed fact was that a court order signed by a Superior Court judge was required. Cherokee County Board of Education, or Board of Elections and Registration has and will do again have a court order to unseal the May 24th primary ballots for purposes of conducting an audit. Cherokee's first audit was a risk limit audit, and I have been told in some avenues that this was only done as a result of the guidance from the Secretary of State, which is not true. The Secretary of State had nothing to do with Cherokee's RLA court order and subsequent count. Just last night, it came to my attention that Cherokee County Board of Elections Registration will request the signing of another court order to do a full audit of the May 24th primary of the Secretary of State and governor's races, which will consist of over 60,000 ballots to be counted. And I've confirmed this information and the plan with the election supervisor for Cherokee County. I've also been told that we don't know how an order, if written, would be provided to a judge for signature, and my answer is the exact same, that we would do it if this board needed to get a court order to delay a poll location closing time. And this was actually done on June 9, 2020. This board has the authority to have a court order written and transmitted to a judge to decide. Shortly, this board will vote on having a court order written to unseal the May 24th primary ballots. I implore this board to search your heart in the name of voter confidence and transparency, and to not allow the fear of the unknown to stop you from doing what is right. I would like to finish by stating that unsealing of the ballots should be a difficult decision and a rare event, and that future requests, like the one our citizens have requested, should be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. This request, if ultimately granted, should not be an avenue to audit unpopular results. Thanks.
All right. At this time,
Any other discussion?
do I?
Anybody else want to say anything?
I would.
Terry does.
Hi. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay, great. So I appreciate your comments, Mike, and I agree that we should have elections and that are fair and are and really that's the reason our board is here, is where elections are properly. In my opinion, our election has been properly done, and the results have been certified properly. So I feel that way for several reasons. So first of all, and I can't see the audience. So in any event, the law requires that we the board, the elections officials, Stacy and her staff, test all of the equipment prior to every single election, and that was done in this case, and all of the equipment was found to be operating properly. As y'all discussed January 8th, the June 8th meeting, the security at the office, I think is basically impenetrable. There are security cameras, know that no one's broke into the office or something like that. There are procedures at the polls themselves to ensure security. So, for example, every single piece of equipment is sealed with a numbered seal that has to be cut before the election itself can proceed, and that's all completely documented. And then the equipment has to be and then this particular election, rather than having the poll man take the data cards from the scanner, the members of the election actually did that themselves and took it to the office. That's what I'm understanding. I wasn't a member of the board at the time, but again, an extra level of security. The other, and then as Stacy said already as part of the agenda, we have done a risk limiting audit under the auspices of the Secretary of State, and that was found, in my opinion, to come out great. We only had one vote that was off, which, because of error, I think that's kind of a miracle. The other thing that I guess really impacts the way that I feel about this is that we haven't had a single who has said that there was a problem with the election and who filed a motion for a recount. And so while I understand that there may be some people who don't trust the machine itself, I think we have adequate controls in place, and it's all because, I guess one thing that hasn't been talked about very much, at least in the things, is that this is the law. So the legislature considered, I imagine, all of these arguments that are being made now. The legislature could have said, we're going to count every single ballot by hand in the entire state of Georgia. But the legislature decided not to do that. That's, frankly, quite impractical. And so I don't think it's up to us in Pickens County to decide that in our county this is what. do when the state legislature has decided otherwise. Let me just look at my notes. Oh, one thing that I know at one of the recorded meetings that I looked at, somebody said, oh, there could be tampering or something. But the issue there is that it has to be like hands-on. And as I've already stated, security. So it's not like you can have some kind of Wi-Fi access to the software or something like that. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's it. Oh, and then I guess the final piece is that, I mean, if you look at the law, a recount is authorized. You have to be able to show that a recount would make a difference in the election. In our case, is just I mean, the two elections that have been asked to have a hand recount. In the governor's race, Mr. Kemp, Governor Kemp, received 70.72% of the vote in the state, and Mr. Perdue received 21.78% of the vote. And then in the Secretary of State race, Mr. Raffensperger, Secretary of State Raffensperger, received 57% of the vote, and Mr. Heist received 34% of the vote. So even if every single one of the votes in the Pickens County race was manipulated some way, it would not make a difference for the election. Anyway, I don't think it's authorized under the law for as a board to ask to petition the court under these circumstances. There's been no showing of any fraud or mistake or anything like that whatsoever, and no allegation of that. And those are the ends of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
I agree with Terry.
I'll jump in here with a point of view. I understand Terry's comments and I appreciate her candor. However, it doesn't speak to the issue that folks are just not comfortable with this equipment. We hear it time and again when I talk to folks in the community, when I'm at other kinds of events, that even in the polls, when I was a poll manager, hearing folks come in during the 2020 runoff and they said, is my vote going to actually count? So that question keeps coming up and it keeps coming forward in folks' mind. And I think that by us going through and asking the court to open up the ballots to allow us to do a physical count, to just verify and set some folks' minds at ease to understand that, yeah, maybe it is working. You know, we've done a lot of things, and Terry spoke to the security and the added measures that we've done, such as the board members, you know, a Democrat and a Republican physically going out and picking up the SD cards from the scanners and bringing them back in. Does two things: it gets it back in there quicker, and it's an added level of security. And I think that's key and critical in a lot of people's minds. They want to be able to trust the system, but they need just a little more information.
Oh, if we do this, is that going to settle it, or are we going to do this again in November? I mean, that's.
Well, I think Mike made a point in what he talked about, that this is a one-shot deal. We're not going to do this every time. You know, I'll sit here and say that we'll not do it every time unless we got a very good reason to do it.
Well, and I'll just reiterate what I said was, because I know you're on the way in.
I heard you.
You got me? Okay. I just, because I agree. It should be a difficult decision, and it should be a rare thing that we do. And I certainly don't want to set the idea that this is something that we would do on a consistent basis every time we had an election, because it's
too
it shouldn't be
expensive.
done. But to rule out that would never happen again, I don't want to do that either, because I don't know what the case is, and that's why I say case by case basis.
Anybody else?
All right, you want me to take it?
Please.
Okay, so we are now at the section of a board vote on a court order to be written by legal counsel to unseal the May 24th primary ballots. I make a motion to, for the board to vote on a court order to be written by legal counsel to unseal the May 24th primary ballots.
I second.
We have a move and duly seconded that we
Board vote on the court order
order.
to be written by legal
I'm sorry,
counsel
folks,
to
I can't
unseal the
see
May
folks.
24th primary ballots. That's okay, I got you.
All right. All in favor?
No discussion.
No more discussion?
So that the court order, it would, I guess I should ask for legal, it'd have to be a request for, how do we file a request for a court order when we're not
Well,
a party?
we look to fill or legal counsel of sorts. We certainly have some guidelines.
Right, it would obviously go to Phil and go from there.
Okay. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me.
We have a majority. The request is passed. Staff comments?
Okay, I just want to let the board know that we do have a new liaison. Her name is Aiken Bailey.
Another one?
We have another one. She is a former elections director for White County. I've been working with her for a couple weeks now, and she's very helpful. She's a wealth of knowledge.
Is she the one that came out on the buzz post today?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, in the last couple weeks, I think they announced her a couple weeks ago.
Saw somebody new today, I didn't know if that was the same.
No, that is Sandy Johnson, and she's the person who handles the oaths and.
Oh,
and,
that's right, yep.
Things
Thank
like
you.
that with the Secretary of State. We will have a regional meeting tomorrow in Gordon County. CES will be there. They're gonna be doing some training on ballot building. Joseph Curt will be doing some more training on audits. Shay Hicks will be going over election forms with us, so we'll be out of the office the majority of the day tomorrow during that training. The third quarter newsletter, I believe that the board members have all seen it. I'm getting ready to send that out this week to the poll workers. We are going to hold qualifying for the special election for Nelson starting August 1st at 8:30 in our office at the Pioneer Road location. And it will continue till August 3rd at 4:30. I want the board to keep in mind, just for their information and to get out to the public, the first day to accept absentee ballot applications for the November general election is August the 22nd. I have an update on our new office. The work is almost completed. They're finishing up the ceiling of some doorways now that they have the outside doors put in. Painting is completed except for some touch-ups. I met with ETC and the electrician last week. This week, or next week, I'll be meeting with the security and the alarm system people. The furniture's been delivered and a schedule is being worked on to have someone put that furniture together for us. We're hoping for an expected date of operation in the new building for August the 22nd because we don't want to cause voter confusion. We want to be able to have people drop their absentee ballot application off at the same place that they will drop their ballot off at. So we want to be moved into the new location at that point in time. And the only other thing that I have is today is Rhonda's 1-year anniversary working for the Board of Elections. She's not here tonight, but I wanted to thank her for all her hard work and her dedication. She is a huge asset to our team. I couldn't do it without her. And I appreciate and value her so much, and I just wanted to congratulate her on her milestone.
Folks, Rhonda's mother is currently in the hospital in not so good condition. That's the reason she's not here. She went into the VIII with a heart attack. And so if y'all would remember them. Thank you.
Stacy, on when you do your regional, can you make some notes of that and maybe report back? You probably already plan to do that, but I'm here sound like I know what I'm doing. And give us back something next meeting. And as far as the migration of the security equipment, are they using the same stuff, or are we getting new?
No, we're using the same thing.
Okay, is there a plan to kind of do that in phases so we don't lose security while it's moved
When
from
I
one?
meet with them next week, I'll find that out.
What about the standby generators? Are standby
No,
generators?
There's a generator at that
The generator's
location.
already in.
We won't take the generator with us.
There's a same size, well, actually a bigger generator over there than what's where we currently are. Anything from public comments?
David Oles, the Refuge Precinct. I want to congratulate the board for showing courage here today. I know that there's hundreds and hundreds of us out here that are very concerned about the election, and we do appreciate this board taking this important step. I think sometimes this gets viewed as just a Republican issue, but it's not really. The curling suit was filed by Democrats who didn't have faith in the system, and we sincerely appreciate the board taking this very important step to make sure that all of us are confident in our election system. Thank you. You all should be congratulated.
Gary Norman, a concerned citizen of Pickens County, and I would like to second what David said a few minutes ago. The last month plus has been very enlightening, and we've had our ups and downs, but the board tonight enhanced their trust and credibility with the citizens of Pickens County. They really did, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick Shakoroff, citizen of Pickens County. I'm picking up on a point that the remote board member made. She's right that she makes a good point that if even 100% of the ballots were tampered with, it wouldn't make a difference in the overall result. And you might hear that and think, well, then what's the point? But the problem is, the number could be much less than 100%. It could be 0. It could be 5 or 10%. Who knows? Now, if it's 5 or 10%, what does that say about possible problems with other elections in other counties? So this is by no means, this wise vote that you made is by no means futile. It's not, we're not chasing wild geese here. Even though her point is still valid, there's another point, which is we need to find out what, if there are any problems and to what degree there are. And if there are no problems, that's valuable too. So I thank you for that vote.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
That's the way I see it.
Folks, at this time, I'd like to say that this was a very trying thing for us. We went full circle to try to get this done, if there's any way that we could. And so tonight, you got
Yeah, I just, I know that Stacy, you called out Rhonda, but I wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate you on your recent 1 year as well. And I know that, Becky, I think you and I are the originals left. But I think we did an excellent job in our selections of everybody that is working and your selections for your local temp staff. And I know that this board appreciates all the work that you've put in and will
Absolutely.
continue to do. I know this has been an extremely tough year, very busy, and it's much appreciated.
I'd like to thank Philip Lander. He's been just outstanding. He's put up with us.
Which has not been an easy task.
And he's, I don't know what we'd do without him, and we just appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil.
I'll interject that we put in a lot of hours of research, phone calls, back and forth, trying to figure out a way to get to this point tonight, and it was not an easy task. But when you all came in here the last time, we heard you, and we acted on it. And that's what, that's the way a republic works.
Anything further? Motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
We have a motion to adjourn, duly seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.